Okay guys, here we go. We're gonna have to put it like that, I guess. There we go. Okay, now you guys can see me. Cool. So, I have not made a video in a long time. It's because I've been kind of preoccupied with a bunch of other stuff that's going on, um, such as a few family things that are happening. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that yes, I am fine and I am okay. It's just been extremely busy around here and very chaotic with some family things going on. So this is a special edition of the Drizzle show because um, what I really want to talk about is conspiracies. And for one thing, do you guys believe in conspiracies out there? Are there any other people on my channel who, think that, well, some things just aren't right? If you really think about it and if you do research and if you go back and read books and articles and magazines and newspaper articles and things like that about some things that have happened and the last, let's say, 45, 50 years, things that are kind of head scratching where you're like, this just doesn't pan out to make sense. um, there's even people who believe that, you know, John Wilkes Booth didn't, shoot the president, Lincoln. And there's a lot of conspiracies going on with that right now where people are finding new evidence that maybe he had other people involved in that whole conspiracy to assassinate, President Lincoln. Um, but why I wanted to do this video is because I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of things on what happened in the 1960s and, as far as 70s and the 80s and even that in the 90s. So I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of reading, and here's some things that just don't make sense to me. Um, and we're going to show some books here in a minute, which would kind of prove my point a little bit. These are books that I found at the library, and I've been reading a little bit of them. So the first one is something that I really thought was very interesting. This is about President Kennedy. This is about the whole issue that he had when he was in office, dealing with all the people who apparently didn't really like him and what he was doing to try to better our country. Um, so, and the author is Thomas J. Walton. Um, and what I found with this is this goes more into detail about, the Bay of Pigs, and a bunch of the conspiracy things that were happening. Because Lyndon Johnson, let's be honest, you guys, he had an opportunity when Kennedy was assassinated to do the right thing, which was end, the Vietnam War, and instead he just, basically said, screw this, we're already there, we're basically just taking the country over. And there's a lot of people who don't believe that Kennedy, um, you know, deserved to be killed, and I believe it. I think Kennedy was one of the best presidents we ever had. Yes, he was not perfect by any means, but he was admired, and people did love who he was, and the things that he did accomplish. Um, Now, this is a wonderful, wonderful book. Um, we'll move it back a little bit. Just wanted you guys to get the sight of the cover there. So this is the Marilyn Monroe Definity biography. It's by Lois Banner. Lois Banner. So what I've read so far is it's really about her childhood. It's about how she basically was an orphan. She lived in orphan shelters. she was not born into a rich family. Her mother basically went crazy after having her and abandoning her, and we all know that she had relationships with Bobby and um, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. President himself. Um, but let's also give the benefit of the doubt that she was an incredible actress, and she was well known for all of her roles. I mean, she worked with so many great actors and actresses throughout her career. She was even married to the famous Yankee hitter Joe DiMaggio. Obviously, if you're a Yankees fan, you know who I'm talking about. But I'll show you some of the pictures here. We might have to turn it around, but here's what the some of the pictures look like. Now, what I thought was very interesting was this also talks about the people who she, considered family. Um, I'm gonna try to find this one picture for you guys to look at here. Hang on, I think there it is. Okay. Now, I think that these are very good pictures of Marilyn Monroe. Um, and I apologize if I sound like I have a cold. My allergies are terribly bad right now. Um, and then we're going to look at one other book before we go here, and then we're going to have a little talk. Because this last book really, really is very interesting. So this last book is called 26 Seconds. And it's by Alexandria Zappardu? Something? Okay. And maybe if I show it up close here, maybe you guys might be able to read the name of the author there. I'm not sure. So what I've read so far in this, as I've just probably not gotten that far in it, I want to say maybe page 15 or something so far. But essentially, and here's the back of it too. I wanted to show you guys that too. Essentially, this book to me explains so much about my theories about the Kennedys, and that John F. Kennedy honestly was not only a hero to the American public because he was trying to do the right thing by trying to get us out of wars and things, but I felt like he really, was cut down short. I felt like with all the conspiracy theories and everything else that's going on, because 2029, if you guys don't know this or not, but they're going to start releasing supposedly the public police files and other things and other evidence for people to look at and read on the FBI website or something, something similar to that. I've heard that all over the internet. Okay, so my theory is, I think absolutely the John F. Kennedy assassination was a huge cover up. I felt like Lyndon Johnson had some form of deal going on with other people that were involved in the CIA and of other agencies. Um, I really feel like this whole thing was planned for him to be riding in a car like that, that didn't have the protective windows, and it's just a lot of really interesting evidence that's all over out there right now. Um, the fact that the coroner who did the operation to take the bullets out, um, was not a licensed doctor. Um, I believe that he's only has like one other thing on his record, pretty much, that he's ever done. Um, and you have to feel bad for poor Jacqueline Kennedy. I mean, to sit there and to say to herself, my husband was just killed by our own government, and I have no say in it. Um, and she was a very, very, very powerful woman at the time because, I mean, she was the first lady of the United States, for God's sakes. So, I guess what I want to accomplish with this video is just finding out of everybody on my channel, who believes in this Kennedy cover up. Me personally, I feel like there has to be lots of other people who agree with me, and that the whole Marilyn Monroe thing too. Um, I feel like at at our stage in time in history, people should know and understand all of this stuff was just complete and total crap what the media told everybody at the time. Um, I mean, I think that there wasn't just one shooter. I think that there was three shooters. Um, I also feel like the mafia possibly might have been involved in this. Um, so I just want people to have an option to really think about going back in time and doing your research and understanding that the Kennedy assassination was one of the most tragic things that ever happened to our country. And I feel like if he would have been living now, he would have helped us be further, uh, you know, away from wars. And I think that he was a good person. He meant well, but I definitely think that he was murdered. I do not think that it was, you know, somebody who's going to come forward now, but maybe in 25, 30 years from now, maybe somebody will eventually say, okay, uh, we know who did it. Um, but Lyndon B. Johnson, uh, in my opinion, it was one of the most corrupt presidents we ever had. I mean, he made the Vietnam War worse than it was before. We had an opportunity to actually get out of Vietnam when Kennedy was president, and obviously Lyndon didn't want that because he wanted more money, and so did a bunch of other people. Um, and so yeah, that's my opinion. I really do believe that Lyndon B. Johnson had something to do with this cover up. Um, you know, so but this is something that I wanted to do for a while. I wanted to have a talk with everybody and find out from you guys, like, what what do you think happened? Who do you think is responsible for two of basically the most worst atrocities in the 60s? Um, you know, obviously the assassination of Mr. Kennedy and everything that the Kennedys were put through. You know, and people can disagree all they want to in this video, but me personally, I think that there was three gunmen the whole time. I think one was in disguise, and he was possibly on a roof, or maybe on the grassy knoll, or maybe dressed up as a police officer or something. But yeah, things just don't seem to make sense in this case. Um, and in many years of watching documentaries and reading about the Kennedys, um, yes, they committed some things that people didn't like, and they did, you know, stand up for things that some of the other people didn't care about. But I felt like the Kennedy family in general was one of the most interesting families in American history. So we'll just leave it at that. But I do just want to say that, you know, this is a show I wanted to do for a while, and I'm proud to do it. And you know, I I really think that that was one of the worst injustices of our time. So